Georgie, we're back.
We are back.
How does it feel, man?
It feels great,
How does it feel to watch your boy Pep? Just the world crumbles around him.
Honestly, I'm starting to feel bad for him, if I'm being honest. It's
Why is it? No, you're not. You don't feel bad for him because, well, if you do feel bad for him, it's only because they're so far away from you that you're not even worried about it.
no, I just on a as a human level, I just feel like he's going through it, man. You can tell. Just sidelines before or after games, it's just taking a huge toll on him mentally. And it's crazy because Jurgen Klopp came out last year when he wanted to leave and said, "This is like too much. I'm tired and all that." And everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people kind of made a joke out of it. And then
Yeah.
now, a year later, it's like you can like visibly see physically on Pep's face how much of a toll that's like taking him, especially when things are going like the opposite way that he kind of wants it to go. So
So
it's tough.
so one win out of the last 12 matches now. What Where does this turn around, I guess, for Manchester City? What needs to happen? Is it the players? Is it Pep's philosophy? Is just basically because here's what I see a lot with certain tactics. They work really well for a certain period of time, and then eventually somebody figures you out, and then it's just it doesn't work as much. Does this have anything to do with the tactics, or does this have something to do with the players, or is it confidence? What's the big reason?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I don't think Pep can play the same style with the players that he has right now at this moment with the confidence and obviously they have some injuries, but with the confidence that these guys have. Like he's playing Ange type of high lines and his team is awful at transition defending. Like every time a team goes against them on a counterattack, I feel like it's going to be 1-on-1 against the goalkeeper. And a clear-cut chance for the opposition. So I think he has to change that. I think they just need to go a little bit more of a low block, drop the high line instead of being a half, just drop them 20, 30 yards because the midfield cannot recover. They don't have the physicality. They don't have anybody that has the speed and the pace to, catch up to somebody once they get beat. So I think you need to change your tactics and adjust to what the players are going through. Obviously, their confidence is low, but these guys are not awful players. Obviously, we've seen them win championships with Manchester City. Their legs might be a little bit gone. They might be tired. Obviously, Foden, Kyle Walker are within the England team that went far in the Euros. They haven't really started their season the right way, and it's just one of the Rodri's injured.
Yeah,
It's just
but who do they have really missing besides Rodri?
no, that's it. But that's what I tweeted about this. I said this is not a Rodri problem. I think this is what happened to Liverpool a few years ago when it was like Henderson, Fabinho, when their legs were just burned out. Like you just
Like
at
when,
some point
but that was after like Sadio Mane left.
that was after Mane left and like after the season of like the Van Dijk injuries and all that. Like it, you just at some point, I think what we're accustomed to with Pep and Manchester City since he came to Manchester City has been something's not working out. We're going to go in the transfer window and we're going to spend money. And I think in the past 3 seasons, they've tried to do that, but it's like Mateus Nunes hasn't worked out. Grealish, 100 million, he had the one good season, but since then, it hasn't really worked out. Doku hasn't really worked out. Savinho's come in, his flashes, but he hasn't really worked out. And they got rid of Alvarez, who I think in the current moment would have helped them big time because I think he's the gap between the attack through Holland, and I think he would be a really good player to be able to like plug in to complement Holland. At the moment, Holland is just doing absolutely nothing, and we've talked about this before. It's great when Holland is scoring, and when Manchester City can get those, like the ability to create those chances, but now they can't. So essentially now you're playing with a man down, and that's always been kind of what's happened, in the past. It just Manchester City have been so dominant to where they didn't need, Holland to drop back or to help out or other players to be, better balanced as a unit. Where now, I think Pep just has to change it as a whole because it's not working. It's not going to work. They're so far from where they need to be, like on the ball, without the ball. Just everything is just in shambles for me. And I think
Is
Pep
it,
knows it, but I think he's one, like what we've talked about with Pep is he's stubborn, right? Like he wants to stay with his own tactics. Even when used to get to finals, we'll talk about like Pep not changing or changing too much just to try to outcoach himself or outmanage himself and think he's like changing the game in a way. And I think he's stubborn in that way to where he's used to winning for so many years with a similar style. And now how can you tell him you got to change it? But I think he does need to change it, especially at the moment.
well, that's what they were saying on the broadcast was like these guys won so many championships. They were the best team, possibly one of the, I would say, top two or top three in history of club teams. And how are you going to convince any of these players that they need to completely change their playing style or their philosophy? And how are you going to convince Pep to do that when this whole philosophy is still based on, that Barcelona team and Pep's, kind of the tiki-taka and the triangles and the regaining possession within less than 6 seconds and things like that. So what specifically does he have to do in order to change it, as far as like, because right now you have pretty much all the same players. What he's done in the past was he's little by little taking a player out when he feels like he's not performing, and he's kind of replaced players as you go through the years, even when they've been successful. So for me, I'm like, I don't know what Pep is going to do. To be honest, he has to reinvent some sort of a tactic or change something completely different, or does he just have to kind of just wait it out and see what happens? Because I don't know. Teams, I see teams now, they're like high pressing. I see Aston Villa, they're high pressing. I see all of the other teams that they're playing, they're just like, you know what, these guys aren't as good as they think they are, or they're not as good as they used to be. So we'll just high press them and we'll nick the ball off of them in the build out or something like that. Today, Aston Villa, Morgan Rogers, just running through the midfield. Like no, like 2, 3, 4 players just running past them. The first goal specifically, they drag them out, they bring them out. They play. Emi Martinez plays the ball straight through the middle, and then the next ball straight through the middle again for what is it, John Duran or Morgan Rogers, I think, or Morgan Rogers, who plays it to John Duran, and it just looks so easy. And it's weird because I've only seen defenses look this bad or like this opened when I'm watching a Tottenham match, when I'm watching Big Ainge and his high line. And now Manchester City just looks, I mean, in the first 15 seconds, Aston Villa should have been up in the first 15 seconds of the match. And I think it was John Duran who just missed the opportunity. It's crazy to see it because I'm like, what's going to happen over the next 5 or 6 games that's going to change the run of form that they're going on? I've always thought like Manchester City, they'll bounce back. But they just don't look anywhere near the same as they used to be before these 12 matches in the previous season and stuff like that. To be fair, though, you got to give credit to Aston Villa. It's always difficult when you make it to the Champions League and then the next year there's always a drop off. They are now back, I think, in like 5th place, 4th or 5th, I believe, but now they're in a position where they might end up challenging for Champions League again the season after they first qualified, which is extremely difficult because they're playing European football right now. And that means that Manchester City is now out of the European spots. There's no European football for Manchester City next season if it stays like this.
Listen, Manchester City, they're going to go in January, they're going to sign 3-4 players, and they're going to save their season. And I think that's ultimately what it's going to come down to.
Are they going to replace Haaland? No, I mean, let's be honest. They spent a crap ton of money. He was the best player in the world. Everybody wanted him. Manchester City ended up getting him, right? He's fantastic whenever Manchester City has the ball and can create a lot of opportunities in the box. Other than that, recently, or like through balls in behind. Other than that, the guy has been absolutely useless in these last 12 games, really, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. That's why I've always said I don't want to say he's useless because the guy can score you goals, obviously. But you need to be able to create plenty of chances, which, to be fair, they have last year. And, ever since he came to Manchester City. However, that style fits only when you're dominating. And like the way he plays only fits when you're dominating under Pep. Because I think at Borussia Dortmund he was a different player. I don't think he was just as reliant on those chances within around the box. I think he was more of a complete player. But now Pep turned him into literally just a goal scorer. And like today, actually, he nicked the ball off on top of the box on the defensive area, and I was like, this is what I think Manchester City needs, because they need somebody that's going to run around. Even though a lot of people don't like the fact that strikers running back and defending and all that, I think it's very, very important in today's game that your attacking players work off the ball just as much as everybody else now. Just because if you don't, they're just so bad in transition. Like you said, Morgan Rogers, he was bouncing off 2, 3 players at the time, just running through them. Like I saw Kovacic and Bernardo Silva on the ground for the second goal when he ran past them, because they tried to get him and he brushed them off. They don't have the physicality in midfield. They don't have the legs in midfield. They're relying on the tiki-taka football, which teams are just like, all right, you can try and pass around, but you're not that good on the ball anymore, because you have players like, for example, Doku coming into the game, where he was really good for 2 games or a stretch of 2, 3 games last season, and ever since then he's been nowhere to be seen. And I think the transfers that's usually gone in the favor of Manchester City are just haven't gone their way. Like we talk Kelvin Phillips, Grealish. I know he's not terrible, but he's not $100 million player. Nunes, Gundogan coming back on free. It just hasn't worked out, especially when the current players that you already had are not playing at the level they're at. Like Kyle Walker's needs to be replaced. Rico Lewis is young. I don't know how much he's going to be part of Pep's plans going forward. He's an okay player, but he's not going to win you a game. He's just one of the players.
So let me ask you this then. Does this get somewhat fixed when Rodri comes back? Is that how much of an impact he has now that he's gone?
I mean, it's going to help because he's a world-class player, but I don't think he fixes any. Like if Rodri's playing right now, let's say, they haven't won a game in 12. They won 1 game in 12.
1 in 12.
They probably win 3 or 4 in 12. Like it's not like I don't think it's
crazy though.
It's to me it's not that big of a like. I think this season
you'd say that, but he hasn't seen a Manchester City side lose, like ever.
Yeah, but like this, I think if he played this season, they would have. Even with Rodri this season, Manchester City did not look that like frightening. It was just a What do we talk about on the same podcast? On this podcast, what do we talk about before the season? I think most of us said, well, no, you love Manchester City. I don't know. You're obsessed with Pep.
No, I'm a Pep supporter. I'm a manager supporter.
Yeah, but I said it last year. The transfers that they've made, I don't think they were good, and I think they're paying the price now. But ultimately, it started from last season because you get rid of certain players, and you bring in some players, and they don't mesh. Like getting rid of Alvarez, who saved you plenty of games when he was at City, when Haaland wasn't firing, when he wasn't really working out. You had a plan B. Right now with Haaland, you look at the bench, and one of the Manchester City big accounts on Twitter posted, "Oh, we should take Haaland off. This was a halftime. We should take Haaland off and play with a false 9." And in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, you have KDB on the bench, you have Doku on the bench, and you have Savinho on the bench. If you were to play with a false 9, you need pace. So you need to bring those players on top. Because if you play with a false 9 with Bernardo Silva on one side and Jack Grealish on the other side, teams are literally just going to step up and high press you nonstop because nobody's going to beat you with pace in behind. So you become one-dimensional. With Haaland, if you take him off, you're like ultimately saying we need to change the way we play because Haaland is not it or doesn't work in the system at all. Even though this system is supposed to fit Haaland to a T, but it's not because they're not creating chances. So I think Manchester City have a lot to worry about because this doesn't get fixed in through coaching, sadly. Like you just need players. And it's something
crazy to say because transfer wise, they never hold out money on players. Like they'll spend whatever they need to spend. Yeah. But I agree with you. Like the players that they've gotten, when you think of Doku consistently over a long period of time, Savinho, Mateus Nunes was the one that gave away the 2 goals. One or two of the goals last
Yep.
game. So he's been having a nightmare. Jack Grealish. Kevin De Bruyne is getting older. He's in and out of the team now. Phil Foden today he scored the goal, but recently Phil Foden has been invisible for most of the matches. And then when you think of the thing with Manchester City before was if Haaland wasn't having a good game, or if De Bruyne wasn't having a good game, or if Bernardo Silva wasn't having a good game, 2 or 3 of the other guys would be having a good game and they'd be fine. They wouldn't need everyone to have a good game all the time. But recently, not a single one of them has been having a good game. I don't think of a single player right now in Manchester City that I'm like, man, if they lose him, they'll really be screwed. Like, or he's the only thing that's kind of keeping them together. I think it's all just all over the place. You could see it in their faces after they get the goal scored. Like, they've never been in this territory before and they have no idea how to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Walker too. Like so many players are just gonna be gone within it. If Pep stays, it's just gonna be a whole revamp.
Where's he going, man? Where's he going? He just signed a new contract. He's not going anywhere.
I don't know. I don't know if he.
He might just be trying to get them in the championship anyway. He might say, screw it, fuck it, let's lose the rest of our games. Let's see if there's any chance that we can get relegated. We're going to get relegated because of the charges already. So we might as well do it. And then big comeback in the championship. Pep Guardiola managing in the championship and gets them promoted back to the Premier League.
And they got to spend $1 billion just to revamp the whole team. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. But look, January is going to come around. They're going to bring in 2-3 players. That's going to help. And would 2 or 3 players make Manchester City champion contenders? I don't think so. I think it's just everyone. I don't think there's this, like you said. I can't tell you one, like a single player on that team besides Ortega today that was like, okay, that was really good.
It's crazy. We're talking about Manchester City here.
It's insane. Like if we talked about a team that usually gets things right because they don't care about money or anything, like it's Manchester City. And it just shows you, even when you do have unlimited money and unlimited funds to do whatever you want and the freedom as a manager to do anything and everything you want, it just doesn't work out sometimes. So
well, we saw that with Chelsea last season as well.
Yeah.
Right? All that spending and terrible results, and finally they just got a good manager to make it all work, and they've been a little bit better, but Manchester City's struggling.
It's tough.
All right, so final question. Where do they end up in the table at the end of the season? If you're looking at their current form, if you're looking at their projection of like, okay, if they do pretty well in the January transfer window, get out, where do you see them finishing right now?
They're finishing in the top 4.
All right, so you don't think they'll get knocked out of European competition then?
No,
right.
Because I just, if they do, it's because they don't go crazy in January. And if they don't do that, then that's on Pep and the board and all that. And I don't know how much Pep is going to be like, I can fix this and be stubborn about it just to prove that he is that coach, like able to bounce back. Or he's like, you know what, I need to spend money to bring my players.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who's the better manager now? Jurgen Klopp or Pep?
Chill.
See,
don't even.
There we go.
Don't even.
Just proves the point.
I'll defend Pep.
Just
Jurgen Klopp. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole. We'll get into an hour-long rant about who's the better manager. I'll defend Pep. I'll die on that hill. Listen,
damn, you're dead. At this point, you're dead. 1 win in 12. There's no. You're not defending a hill anymore. You're done.
Here's the crazy thing, though. 1 win in the last 12 matches, and they're still 6th in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
When you put it in perspective, you're like, wow, that's impressive. That 1 win in the last 12, that's relegation type results. Yeah. And they're still 6th in the Premier League. And the next match, they can jump right back up to 4th or 5th or whatever.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. Like I said, I think if they can get 1 or 2 wins at least, which is so crazy to say, in the next 4 or 5 matches before... Well, no, there's not 4 or 5 matches, probably 3 until January transfer window opens, January 1st. So 1 win in the next 3 and you're good.
We'll see.
It's
very
crazy.
Happy from a Liverpool fan, aren't you, Georgie?
Nah, I feel for Pep.
You want to watch the world around you burn,
nah.
as long as it's not Liverpool related.
Yeah, I do, but like, nah, as on a human level, I feel bad for Pep because you can just see, man, it's just sad.
It's the pressure. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. To be honest, can you
Yeah.
imagine? He's got to be the highest paid manager in the Premier League,
Oh yeah, without a
and
doubt.
that's why he gets paid that much money.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see how they bounce back. We'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.